Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a time to be alive. I think that if there's anything we cherish today, it is the fact that hope seems to be rising around our world because together we are standing against this virus that has caused a lot of pain, whether in terms of livelihood or in terms of lives. And today, we are going to have very fantastic people who have been at the front tiers of everything that communities are doing to stem the tide of the impact of COVID-19 on people and communities. Together today, I am joined by an incredible cast of not just talkers, but doers who have dedicated their lives to this very important aspect that we seldom remember, which is that all politics is local, all governance is local, all economies are local, and that at the end of the day, nothing about the statistics that we very much cherish. I, in particular, love analytical and empirical evidence, but behind those numbers are real human beings. And so we're going to be discussing about the human being at the community level where it matters most. Our session today is economic recovery from the grassroots up. And this session gives us the opportunity to look at what's going on around communities that were brought to their knees as a result of COVID-19. As the vaccines begin to roll out globally and health begins to become more stable, the economic recovery front of mind is at the heart of the matter and every conversation around the world today. Grassroots organizations are leading from the ground up, harnessing the strength of the communities to drive local job recovery. We want to explore what is working. We want to know how to replicate the best practices that have been found around the world. We need to know what we all have to do in order to drive the recovery from the grassroots up, but to do it in a way that we achieve speed and scale. And so joining me today would be George Gachi. George Gachi is well known for the work that he does in Nairobi, Kenya, as project officer, UN Habitat, and is a founder of a very significant grassroots organization known as Matter Roots Initiative. George, you want to wave to the audience? We need to make this animated, even though it is virtual. So I want some action on the part of our panelists. Welcome, George. And the second person is Innocent Magambi. Innocent is a founder, or the founder of There Is Hope, Malawi. Malawi is a country that I know very well because I had been an economic advisor to President Banda. And so I know how tough it is to actually do work at the local level, bringing hope to the community. So please join me in welcoming Innocent Magambi of Malawi for the work that he does. And our third panelist is Dr. Well, no, I didn't do this. I certainly didn't do this. I have one of those complex names, and when people don't pronounce them well, I don't normally give them an A, and I'd love to get an A from our speaker, Dr. Wutarain Lane. Did I get that right? You're going to have to correct me. Batten, and She works for the Institute for Development Studies and Practices in Pakistan. Her work is very renowned. And so it is such a pleasure to have her, Doctor, being on this program with us. So here we are. I am Obi Ezekwesili, and just simply know me as one who is passionate about seeing those at the bottom of the pyramid break through the barriers and enjoy the economic mobility that is important for us to have a world that is just, equitable, and equal. So welcome. I will start by letting the audience know that across the spectrum of conversations that we'll be holding during the World Communities Forum conversations are two critical pillars that we seek to explore. What are you seeing on the ground in your communities that is missing from high-level conversations or mainstream representations of society? And so I would start with that and quickly go around my panelists. What is it that when you say the people gather at the World Economic Forum, you wish they were discussing? I'll start with you, our dear doctor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Obi. You did excellent well with my name. Thank you.
You're so gracious.
It's beautiful what you said. Love it. The question itself is so inspirational and so much to my heart. I was once upon a time, not long back, in the World Economic Forum, or it was some kind of in San Francisco Economic Forum I was invited to. And then I raised a question that they were talking about infrastructures and roads and market and economy and buildings and all those things. And I just raised my hand and I just said, well, you can have all the infrastructure you want, but when there are no people, when there are no people to use it, are not ready to use it, what are you going to do with it? This is not what they're asking for. And we do not know what, do they need that? Will a road will change their lives? How is it going to affect? And I wanted to find out what is the economy of the physical infrastructure? How is it going to affect the lives in the communities? And I got no answer. That was quiet. And it was they responded to some other questions. What I would like to see to be discussed at the higher forums is that the gaps that has been left by the formal education system, which is excluding the majority young people from mainstream education. What are you doing about those gaps? When you train a midwife and you do not give her any exposure in the labor room, in the delivery, but you are giving her a credential, a certificate, a certified midwife, what are you doing about that gap that she's still not working because she has no experience of practice? How are you arranging the practices of community-based midwives? How are you looking at when the teacher in the schools that you have established, which are half-baked, which are not owned by the communities, which is where the learning is so alienated from the reality of the children and of the community? How are you filling that gap? And I do not see this SGD's things that is going on. I do not see that they're relating to it in an integrated way. They have frame each SGD objective in itself in a box. They're talking about how to bring the schools. I was in one of the forum, member of a forum in Pakistan, in Balochistan, on education. And they had written a document on policy document which says that more than 50% of the children are out of school, or they're not 60%, sorry, 60-70%, and majority girls. And then somewhere they write the poverty is one of the reason. And then later on somewhere it says that nutrition is an issue, and then they do not talk about it at all in the actual program. And when I asked them that why school nutrition is not part of the school system, they said, oh, we have another SDGC discussing about nutrition and health, but not as part of in the school.
That's very telling, and I think that somebody who knows exactly what you're saying would definitely be innocent, Magambi, because this matter of the silo approach to conceiving of development frameworks is something that Malawi has battled with for many decades. Innocent, maybe you want to continue from where the good doctor ended.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be part of this conversation. And I mean, I'm just so happy that we have World Community Forums, because this is a place where our voices need to be heard. Otherwise, we are not heard, are not seen, and therefore we are not discovered. I was born a refugee in Congo. My parents came from Burundi, and 7 years later I was born. I grew up, hearing how rich my dad was back then, but only experiencing the poverty. I didn't wear shoes until I was 13. And I was conflicted growing up. I went to Burundi when I was 13 years old for the first time to see my home country, but it did not last. We were kicked out after 3 months of being in Burundi, came back to Congo. And 3 years later, they were started in Congo. I had to run on my own. I was 16 years old at that time. Went to Tanzania, Zambia, and to cut the long story short, I've lived in 5 refugee camps in Tanzania, in Congo, in Zambia, and Malawi. And when I was in Malawi, I just thought, I need to be the voice, because nobody can speak for refugees like me, because I have 27 years of experience of being a refugee. And that's when I ended up starting an organization called There Is Hope, to support refugees really come out of their dilemma, but also, tell the world about how we are, not someone else telling our story. So far, we have done a lot of work that I'm really proud of. But what I would really like to see in those big forums is, it's an unfortunate part. It's like, the world has put systems, or every country is trying to put systems to make money transaction easy and viable from one end of the world to another, the same as goods and communication. However, on the other side, the movement of refugees, human beings, of migrants is becoming tougher and tougher. Some countries going to the extent of building massive walls. So where is the heart of humanity? Have we lost something? Those are some of the things that I really would like to be talking about, and but also showcasing the work that we are doing, where refugees are put in a silos, in a place, a corner. It's like a march, and they're not allowed to come out. But what our work, what is doing, is to really show them the other side of the coin, that absolutely we are human beings and we have gifts and talents, and we can contribute not only to the economy of the host country, but also to the economy of the world.
A very important theme that you have introduced into the conversation, which is that the human being is not given free passage as much as money is given free passage in the transactions that we have around the world. And that at the end of the day, just understanding the importance of community and the human life is really at the heart of what development is. And so if we're failing to do that, we need to have voices like yours in those places where these high-level conversations go on. Is that what you think, George? You are the UN Habitat. You could say that with the UN Habitat, you are already within that big institution where a lot of talking happens. Are you satisfied with the talking that goes on when the UN has all those big, dramatic events where everybody is looking very important and they discuss the same topic over and over again? How pleased are you, George?
Thank you so much, Dr. Obi. And as you correctly introduced me, my name is George Gashie. I am from Nairobi. I was born in the oldest informal settlements here in Nairobi. We call them slums. It's called Mathare. And I'm here representing hope, just to show that you can also, come from the slums and be at the center also when it comes to discussing matters to do with development of our neighborhood. And thank you so much also to the Shofco team for this opportunity. Yes, I am wearing two hats today. One is that of being a community leader that is working towards improving the conditions of people living in slums and informal settlements, as to where I was born. And I'm also wearing that at the heart of working with an international organization, UN Habitat, as Dr. Obi mentioned. I work within the participatory slum upgrading program of UN Habitat, which is a partnership between the African, Caribbean, and Pacific group of states, UN Habitat, and the European Commission. So the program is implemented in over 40 countries in the ACP region, and really working to improve slums and informal settlements. I have had the opportunity of sitting in these big conferences. Just in last year, before the COVID-19, we had the World Urban Forum in Abu Dhabi. So from our end, we've gone to an extent of introducing assembly. So we had a grassroots assembly before the World Urban Forum started. And during the grassroots assembly, we had we had leaders coming from different grassroots organizations, from different regions, sharing their experiences, and some of the recommendations that actually came from this grassroots assembly is to support and direct funding towards community-led activities. So to me, this is what I'm also pushing, to have community-led, grassroots-led activities and programs being funded. For example, in the slum upgrading program of UN Habitat, we have a component that we call the community managed funds. So the community managed funds, it's whereby like a percentage of the project fund goes directly to the community, and the community comes up with activities and programs that are also going to support their livelihood. And because this will not be discussed often when it comes to when the government is discussing policies and infrastructure development, the community members at the grassroots level, they also need to have an income, and most of them will not get formal employment, and you need to support the informal economy. So one of the things that stands out for me is recognizing the role that the informal economy plays, and this has been exposed recently by this COVID-19 pandemic, where we had people who used to wake up early in the morning and go do their work, they turned out to be beggars, and depending on donation and people be giving them food. So for me, the most important thing that we need to discuss about is funding community-led projects, and also supporting the role of the informal economy towards prosperity of the cities and the country as a whole. Thank you, Dr. Obi. Back to you.
Thank you so much, George. I think you have segued us very well into the next conversation that I think we should be having. And that is, you talk about funding these the activities at the local level, and you talk about the informality of the economies of the communities being so detached from the formal economies in countries like, say, Kenya or Malawi or even Nigeria or Pakistan.
Yes.
And yet, between the place of funding and the place of the projects, there is something about even becoming aware of their existence. I would like to go the way we started with our dear doctor and ask her, do you actually think that solid community solutions to the problems that you have highlighted are finding recognition in the places where they should? Do you think that the world knows enough of the innovations that are going on at the community levels? And if we don't have that recognition, what do we do to get them right on the radar of everybody so that the rate of absorption of these solutions would be greater than what we currently see, in order to support their emergence into scaled operations that lift people quickly out of poverty?
Thank you. We have been empowering the young men and women in the communities, and young girls in midwifery skills, because mothers, there's no any outreach services as efficient as it should be. Balochistan has highest rate of maternal mortality. More than 700 mothers died during babies deliveries out of 100,000 live births. What we have done is more than 300 or almost 400 young women from 400 villages, we got them trained into real practices, and for 3-4 months, and now they are practicing very well in their own midwifery techniques. But what we found was that they were doing beautiful, heroic work, but the government did not really know about it, or even if they know about it, they wouldn't acknowledge it the way it should be and make it part of the system, that this refresher training is so, continued medical education is so important for the girls in the rural areas who are practicing midwifery. What we did when we saw this, and we went from pillar to post, making presentations to the secretary, to the governments and all, but they would keep asking and pushing it back into a syllabus kind of a thing. But this is in a syllabus, we do it. Please, you don't do it. It is not there. You're not doing it. It is in the syllabus, but it's not happening. We have to keep saying that. Finally, what we did is we added media training program for our midwives, and we have given them this tablet, and we have trained them on start recording everything and filming everything, and creating their own blogs and putting it out in the world, because now borders don't matter. After media, there are no borders. Everything is is global now. But that connection to the global is needed by individual to the globe, overcoming all boundaries, all nations, all bureaucracy, straight into the globe. And that is what our young boys, girls and boys, even our boys, that we have started because of COVID to cover up the economic problems. So we have taken young people, boys and girls, into IT trainings, into entrepreneurship trainings, into office management trainings, and we have managed to get the scale down that even a 10th grader can come in these trainings, and we don't need 12th or bachelors and all that. So that is done, and we have managed to do that. But still, there are many who are not 10th grader even. So what do you do there? So we have started mashed up training with this government training, who are below, who have not done their 10th grade, and we are copying their training, the other one, into our informal way of training. So the ones who don't qualify in the government training program because they're not 10th grader, so they come to our training at the same time. So we are running two kinds. We are copying from there. So the knowledge is being transferred. Maybe not the cert, they might not get the certificate, but our institute gives the certificate then. So, but they get the knowledge, and today's world is not about certificates. It is about what you know. They're still into these certificates and pieces of paper and degrees. Nobody's asking these things these days. So we are competing and demonstrating continuously in public, not in government offices, but in public forums, which are led by the young people themselves. And we are there just making these presentations and bringing out this dichotomy.
Excellent.
And this is we find this is a great gate crashing. You have to crash the gate.
I love that. I love the gate crashing part of it.
Yes.
I think it was Chisom, the first woman to run for president in the United States, that said, if they don't invite you to the table, why don't you just take your seat and just crash into that place and set up your seat at the table? So that's what you're doing. And I really love it. I love the fact that you got
and the
internet.
And the internet, the digital world is there. You don't need any other thing. You don't need anyone.
So what I love is you instantly decided to bring attention. The women were taught how to bring attention to their work. So you empowered them to announce their work. And that's what the community must do. The community must force people to acknowledge that they exist, because technology offers the tool for that to happen. Innocent. What's going on in Malawi?
Just to add there, you're so right, and you're really making me so happy and excited, Doctor, that 11 of our midwives have been adopted by Pakistanis living in US, in Western world, and they are taken care, all their further education, their own issues, they're adopted by the philanthropic people across the globe directly.
Thank you so much. Innocent, you had that conversation. What did you think? Is that do you have a different model through which you are bringing attention to the innovations that you're doing? 27 years of knowledge as a refugee. You do have a lot to teach the world. And maybe they just think you're one man sitting somewhere in Malawi. How do we sort of bring this global thing, from the global level to the local, from the local level to the global? What do you think we should do in recognizing that your solutions have been really good for the world?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, for me, I see two things, because when we respond to our communities, it's not about teaching the world or telling the world. It's about our community. It's about lives. It's about, people there. So sometimes we take time to expose our work and celebrate outside, like let the world celebrate our work. However, I want to say too that there are two things. I mean, the world is full of people who are knowledgeable. You have scientists who have been able to, to make, microscopes and whatever things that can detect viruses that are too small to be visible using the naked eyes. But unfortunately, it seems like our work is too small to be seen by those microscopes. So is it realistic? Is that true, or they just decided not to engage, not to see, because what is local ends at the local level and cannot inspire anybody else? So I feel like there is need for intentional searching, because we are not too small to be visible, but there isn't a willingness. Number two, on our part, I think we also need intentional exposure. And that's why, for me, like World Communities Forum is, that's what it means. Like, it's like, okay, those invisible beings, or, let us expose them, because they have models and achievements that can teach the world, because we are responding to the community's needs. We know how to navigate to the problems, to the language, to the barriers, to mindset. But because we are not in the category of experts, unfortunately, we are not being searched after or looked after to say, okay, what can we learn from you? So there are intentions on both sides. Our side to really do what we can to launch ourselves, and forums like World Community Forums. There are several philanthropists who have done a great job. I have a huge example for Sigo Family Foundation. They have done exactly that. They fund, but also try to expose their champions. So there are work to do for both sides.
This is thumbs up, for the World Communities Forum. Even just this series of events lined up this year would go a long way at exposing what happens at the local level. I think that your point on intentional session on the part of formal institutions and organizations, as well as intentional and deliberate attempt at being exposed by yourselves. So we don't have communities sort of acting weak. The community is not weak. George, say something to us about that. The community is not weak. The community is strong. The community is powerful.
Oh yes, the community is very powerful.
How do we get the world to know what you're doing? How do we get more of that out there? Yeah. How do we get them to accept that innovation is happening at the local levels, and that these innovations are important for lifting people out of poverty?
Thank you, Daktari. I will share what we are doing in Mathare to just demonstrate that the communities are very strong. Through my youth initiative, the Mathare Roots Initiative, we came up with because we realized during the COVID-19, when the COVID-19 hit us, that there was a lot of misinformation and false information going around the communities about this COVID-19. So we came up with an innovative way of educating the community. And we started using graffiti and murals, tapping into the local talent. The youth are very talented here with different talents. So we tapped into these talents to demonstrate that we can still use the local talents to reach out to the world. So our work has been recognized. We went ahead to paint over 20 walls in different locations. And these walls had messages about COVID-19, had messages on how to protect yourselves, and like with the issue of washing hands, to just remind people to keep wearing their masks. And they were recognized just last year, before the end of last year. The Human Rights Defenders, a group of Kenya, recognized our work, and Mathare Roots Initiative was awarded the upcoming Human Rights Defenders of the Year because of that work. The same way, a lot of our work has been featured in global media, international press, even in publications as far as French publications. And this is just to show that we need to tap to the local talent, and how to make our work to be known and seen out there. We need to create partnerships. We need to create partnerships with like-minded organizations. We need also to bring in the private sector. We need to bring in this private sector partnerships also to support the work that is happening at the local level. For instance, we also partnered with sports people, athletes, to distribute face masks to the needies in the community. This is a kind of partnership that we need. These are international recognized celebrities. Partner with them, and then our work will also be known out there. But otherwise, if we just stay within our circles, then we can bet for sure that the work will only stay there. But we need to reach out also to international media and organization in order for our work to be seen out there. So thank you so much, Doctor. Back to you.
Thank you so much. You know, look, you're such an interesting panel, and I could just carry on with this conversation, listening to you. You're teaching us so much about, you know, what fantastic work you are respectively doing. One of the things that I have been told to ask you definitely is, you know, did you just get up one day and say, I'm going to be a community leader? Or was there something, was there a trigger moment that got you saying, I'm going to do this thing? Dr. Baktari, please tell us your story as quickly as possible, because I have one more round of questions for all of you after this round. So, and I've got just about 5 minutes. So please help me manage my time better than I've done. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll try to do my best. As a child, I was raised in a refugee camp. The country was created in 1947, and that is, I was born in 1949. I found myself in a huge community who was looking after each other, and a survival, looking forward to do everything right for the new created country and do their best. So I was really born in a struggling but a forward-looking attitude of a community. And as a child, I was raised by, not by my parents alone, but by the community. I was raised by the community because our parents were very busy. It was the whole community who was raising children of everybody. So we had just one small room, and who would stay in the room all day? Which child will stay? We just would play and sleep somewhere, and I used to find myself in my own bed. So that kind of a trust and loving care I have experienced all my childhood. So the foundation was laid in me to trust and love people unconditionally without any biases, and not to know them well before you reach out. I don't try to know people. I just go ahead. And as a woman, as a girl, as I was entering in my teens, restrictions started coming over me by my parents, not to go outside, not to be with the boys, not to be alone. And I was not used to hearing, you can't do it. I was not raised that way by the same parents who started doing otherwise to me. And that is what happened to me. No, I can't do it. I have been doing it as a child till 12 and 13.
Amazing.
I can do it still. And that is where I isolated myself in my mind from the powers of my parents, my adults, because they were trying to put me in a box. And I was raised without a boss, without boundaries, without gender sensitivity. I was raised on the street with the people in the gullies, in the alleys.
Interesting story. Dr.
Yeah, and
you should write a book.
that was my character. So I do not buy as a child till today. No, you cannot do it. You should not do it. This cannot be done. So these are enough words for me to go ahead and do what I want to do and what I believe.
Be a community leader, innocent, in 5 countries, just moving from one country to another country. It's a clear case of a person who has been through all kinds of vicissitudes of life. And yet you've got this spirit of can do, which is what Dr. Baktari was just speaking about. So you can see that it doesn't matter what region of the world you belong to, as long as you have that mindset of the kind that Dr. Baktari spoke about, you can be an innocent magam. Is that your story? Is that a summary of your story?
Yes, it is. I mean, I wrote a book called Refugee for Life, My Journey Across Africa to Find a Place Called Home. It tells it all, because in the journey, yes, there have been a lot of pain, a lot of frustrations, a lot of losses, but there's always someone who comes alongside and supports, whether in the refugee camp or wherever you are along the way. So with all the story that I said, how I was born and all the places I've been, and there was that sense of there have been someone who has shown up in the, in a crossroads
Yes.
of my life, and therefore to really take that legacy further, I need to do something, because we will not always say thank you and return the favor to those who gave them to us, but we can pass them on to other people. So I call it a chain of hope. So that's what we do at There Is Hope. Everyone who is helped by our organization, we mandate them to do something good to at least one other person before they go to heaven. So
how amazing,
yeah.
Channel of hope. You received hope, therefore you must give hope. The measure
Absolutely.
that you have received is the measure that you must give. Well,
That's the Bible.
I think that there is someone, that should be telling us a little bit about that, because, he got the opportunity of being in a fancy office at the UN Habitat, but his community didn't leave him. So he left the community, but the community didn't leave him. Tell me, why did you become both a community leader as well as a UN expert? Are you, the Habitat?
Thank you. Yes, and I would say they're related. I was born, it's very touching to hear a doctor and Innocent sharing their story, because mine is a bit different, but also similar in a way, because I was born, I found myself living in my grandparents' house in a slum neighborhood in the middle of Nairobi. Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, where when you read about Nairobi, you think like this is a wonderful place and all that, because they'll only tell you mostly about the positive side. So my grandparents moved to Nairobi, and my parents were born here, and I was born in Mathare, the slum. So I shared a room with my grandparents and 5 of their kids, including my mom. And therefore, the only thing that we had was the community. And this is a case. This is a similar story to many young people out there who were born in informal settlements and in slum areas. So really, I started volunteering at an early age. I started doing volunteer work, community work. We will do cleaning of the community, because it's our community. And through this, I joined a youth organization when I was about 15 years. And through this organization, I got to learn more about leadership and about community work. And I was lucky enough, because we didn't have opportunities to go to school, that through my work in the organization, I got a scholarship to go to college. And I decided that I would do development studies, because I wanted to go back and support my community. Again, through the same, I got an opportunity to do an exchange in Germany, to work with youth from low income neighborhoods there, and I got to learn a lot. And I decided that I want to do all this, give back to my community, and it's when I got an opportunity to do an internship with UN Habitat, and I did not think twice on whether to come back home or not, because I wanted to continue serving my community. And today, I'm happy to say that I'm serving more than my Mathare community, because through the UN Habitat, I'm able to go to many other informal settlements and work with them, but at the same time giving back to my home community of Mathare, through the initiative where we're also giving hope to other young people. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Kellen is telling me that my time is up, but I couldn't end this without saying to you, if there is one sentence you would give to these high and mighty people in a world where we're thinking post-COVID recovery, in order to create jobs and more jobs for men, for women, for boys, for girls, what would be your elevator pitch to that high towering figure in the world today? I'll start with you, Doctor.
Thank you. I would just say one thing. Stop using standards. Stop using scales of making who's successful and who's not successful.
Very good. And the innocent, start using standards, stop using scale. That's very good, quiet, very strong one. Yes, innocent, one sentence.
Yes,
but
for me, I would
jobs
say,
and more jobs.
Absolutely. For me, I would say that when adversity does not destroy you, it can form you. Therefore, refugees have been formed by adversity, and they have built resilience that is pivotal to the recovery, post-COVID recovery. They just need freedom, the availability of freedom to move from one, like in Malawi, to move from one refugee camp to the city, which is 45 kilometers, you need a pass. Now, what about moving from, Malawi to Zambia, which is a neighboring country? So I want the world to see that and create a conducive environment for refugees to use their resilience in order to really put their resilience
I gave you more than one sentence because we all join you in saying that refugees must be seen. They must not just be heard, they must be seen. And you, George, what would be your elevator pitch?
My elevator pitch would be more funding needs to go to community-led projects because this is where also sustainability will be assured, and also recognize the role of the informal economy. If we are talking about job creation, we're talking about creating opportunities. Most people will not go for white-collar jobs. They will go for the skilled jobs. So let us recognize the role of the informal economy and provide skills training to young people in slum neighborhoods. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that I had the most fantastic panelists during these conversations, because from Dr. Bakhtari to Innocent to George, you were hearing real human beings, people who are not motivated by any title. These are not even interested in being called leaders. They saw needs and they responded to those needs by making themselves available. And they are calling our attention to the fact that solutions that can help us create resilient societies, create sustainable communities that would enable us look at opportunities for collaboration between communities, private sector, partnership at the local level, at the national as well as global level, that all of these are opportunities waiting to be harnessed. At this year's event, I think we should join my panelists in agreeing that a world that is possible is one where we're forward thinking, where we're realizing that people like my panelists are never going to give up because they can do and they are already doing. It now behoves the rest of us to join them in doing. Thank you very much for what has been an interesting.
Excellent.
I have learned a lot. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a great honor. Thank you.